That's right, rear suspension day. We are excited about this rear suspension. So I haven't really gone over what I'm doing with this 38 Coupe in terms of the suspension quite yet. So let me walk you through it. So like we see in the front, we got these little tiny shocks, we got leafs, we got the 5.3 looking good, haven't done much to it, and we got the rest of the coupe back there. So what are we gonna do to this 38 to make it run and drive and make it perform how we collectively want it to perform? Keeping the leafs, gonna change these to Fox shocks, put higher mounts on there to match the 16-inch Fox shocks I have over there that are going in the rear. And yeah, we're gonna keep the leafs, mostly because the steering is already in it. Everything, all the steering is already connected, all the geometry is already good. I just don't really feel like messing with it, and leafs are gonna be good enough for the application that this 38 will be put under. But the rear, oh, the rear. So what do we got in the rear? Let's go over it. So you can see we have leafs and we have the same shocks, right? All of this is getting removed. I am going to cut the leafs off, cut the shocks off, roll the axle back, probably 1.5 feet, if not more, because if you can tell, the body line doesn't quite line up with the 38 Coupe with the 5.3 shoved in the front and the body shoved all the way forward. It's a pretty long vehicle. Doesn't quite line up. This axle is gonna have to come back to match this body line right here. So that's about 1.5 feet, 2 feet. That means the axle's coming back, and it's coming back somehow. A car that runs is a lot more fun than a car that doesn't run. And I really don't feel like doing a 4-link front and rear on this vehicle. One, because I'm never gonna crawl, I'm never gonna hit rocks, I'm never gonna chase that much flex anyways. Two, because it's like fucking $3,000 more worth of parts. So I'm putting long arm radius arms in the rear. I'm gonna do air shocks in the rear, not even coilovers. I have 16-inch Fox air shocks in the rear and the long arm radius arm kit from Ruff Stuff. So that's the plan for it. I'm gonna get to tearing down the rest of this really old drivetrain suspension, you know, the spring over axle leafs and the whatever 12-inch shocks are on here already, tearing all that stuff up, and I'll be back when everything's stripped, grinded down bare, and we're ready to start installing the Ruff Stuff radius arm kit. Measuring roughly the axle so it's perfectly aligned and I don't get scammed on it not being perfectly aligned. So that was 101 to the outside of the tires. So we're looking about 115, 120 inch wheelbase, which is great. Little stanced out, if you will. I'm gonna run single cardan shafts. That's why you see the front drive shaft is angled perfectly parallel with the ground. Well, 2.8 degrees to be exact, because that one's 2.8 degrees, that's 2.8 degrees, and transfer case is 2.8 degrees. So that's what I'm running with. And that's good enough for me. Like I said, I'm sacrificing a lot, not running double cardan shafts. I'm gonna miss a lot of flex opportunity that I could get, but the thing is, I know me, and I know when I build things that I really enjoy this one. And this one's gonna be badass and fun and great. This one's not gonna be a crawler though. It's gonna be good for what it is, which is putzing around town, picking up ladies, if you will. Just kidding, I have a girlfriend, I love her a lot. But no, it's gonna be great for what it is, and it's never gonna be a flex king. I'm not chasing flex with this build. So sacrifices are gonna be made for a reason. And we are 100 on this side, so we need to lock this tire in place, and then we need to have, sorry, I'm kicking my thing underneath of it. And then we need to have driver's side come forward an inch. I will do that, and I'll be back. Let's get to what we're doing. We're gonna build the arms first. That way I can, when I put the mounts in the 38, which is over there, when I put the mounts in, the arms will be done and I can just throw them in. What that entails is putting the heim joints in the end of each of the respective DOM tubes. We have misalignment spacers to go in the heim joints as well. They go right here. And then we have these roller bearings. I'm gonna have to notch the DOM on the other side, on both the uppers and the lowers, on the axle side, which is fine. I just don't have a tube notcher and it's gonna be a pain in my behind. So I'm gonna get these built. All the links are done and in place, and yeah, they are final welded, so those are all good to go. I'm going to now weld on the mounts onto the axle and the frame, mock them up in place, and then final weld everything in. Arms and towers and mounts galore. Everything's in. So that completes the tack welding before I final weld the towers, the mounts, and the arms into the 38 Chevy. So from that time lapse, you saw a few things. One, I made the towers on my welding table because I wanted to weld the inside fully and then weld the outside and then grind the outside, because I'm not that good of a welder. I think a smooth look on the outside looks way classier than my shitty welds on the outside. So fully welded the inside and the outside and grind on the outside, it's all enough for me. Besides that, we got everything tacked in place right now. We got all the links, all the arms, all the heims, everything in place. You know, we still gotta do shocks and suspension and panhard, but for the most part, it's all in place. So I think next I'm gonna final weld everything in place because it's where I want it. It's exactly what I want. It's gonna provide me a ton of squat, because when I step on the gas, I want the back of this to squat down because I like the way it looks. Excuse me. I like the way it looks. All right, well, that's the entire final welded process of the rear radius arms. They are in. The whole system is in. Took about 10 hours. You could probably honestly do it in 4 or 5. So, yep, that's it. Everything is final welded in place. Towers are in place. The welds aren't that pretty. I mean, welded is welded, but the welds aren't that pretty. Weird angles, you know, is what it is. Now I'm gonna tighten all the bolts all the way down to torque, and I'm gonna tighten all the links against themselves so they don't back out or anything. And then radius arms are done and we can move on to the shocks. And we got the Fox air shocks sitting over there. Long beauties, they're gonna go in. All right, it's a new day. Let's talk air shocks and what I'm doing for the air shocks on 38 Chevy project. Okay, now let's talk. So, bunch of grade 8 bolts left. Yeah, I'm using an engine block with a cover over it as a table. Could be using that over there. Could put a table right here, but I don't. So, is what it is. I got 16-inch Fox air shocks. Those are gonna be the shocks on the 38 Chevy. I didn't go with coilovers because I didn't want to spend the money, really, but also because I don't need them. This is going to be light enough where it's not going to matter, and it's not going to be doing the crazy stuff. I'm not chasing flex, I'm not chasing max speed, I'm not chasing anything that needs coilovers, so why spend the money, you know? So that's my thought process on going air shocks instead of coilovers. That being said though, it's still going to be damn cool. I got Summit Racing shock hoops because I don't have a tube bender. And when we build the roll cage for this in April, you know, I'm not gonna need to do that for the front or anything, but I needed to have the hoops here, so like 30 bucks, whatever. I got some shock mounts on Summit Racing too. It was like 15 bucks. And then some leftover scrap steel from the original pile of junk from the 79 CJ5, which this frame came off of. I just took the old shock mounts, cut them off, cut them to roughly the shape of the axle, drilled a 9/16 hole in them for the grade 8 bolts. And yeah, I'm gonna mount them diagonally on the axle itself, leading, it's gonna be, the air shock, you know, they want them to be mostly upright, so I'm gonna be trying to get as far upright as I can, but there's still some distance and angles to cover because the axle is like 6 inches behind where the frame ends, which is gonna be a Panhard bar, but right now we're gonna work with what we have. So I'm gonna get to welding these in. Alright, everything's in, everything's tightened besides the shocks, gonna do that afterwards. And yeah, she is complete and ready to rock and roll. Those Fox air shocks look great. The Ruff Stuff radius arms turned out great, super easy to do. Put a little bit of a bend on those tubes to get a little bit of an arch. For the upper shock mounts, lower shock mounts, I used to use some scrap from original CJ5, some scrap 1/4 inch. Made a shape, put them on there, welded to the axle, called it good enough. Those are near the bolts, don't let me forget. But yes, it's all in. Oh yeah, so you saw me jack up the entire frame to get those air shocks on, because there's no way, each air shock's rated for like 500 pounds per corner. No way I'm pushing 500 pounds up to get it into place accurately. I figured the easiest way to do it, jack the frame up, sketchy with a piece of 2x2, but jack the frame up, get it in place, lower it, do that about 100 times till I get it right. Put those grade 8 bolts in with all the misalignment spacers and the washers, calling it good. That's how I got it up, that's how I got the shocks in. This ratchet strap's in place because I had to compress it down, because I'm not gonna tune these shocks until, I'm not gonna tune these air shocks until I get full weight, which is gonna include a floor, a roll cage, a rear gas tank, a rear radiator, battery electronics, all in the rear subsystem. There's a lot of weight that's gonna go under the rear, so I don't wanna tune the shocks yet. So with that being said, the shocks only went down like 2 inches out of their 16-inch travel with just the weight of the frame and the body. That looks stupid. I'm not gonna let that happen. So I'm gonna use this. I'm using the ratchet strap to compress it down to ride height, which is about 9 inches of down travel and about 7 inches of up travel. So that's why that ratchet strap's there. Also, I don't want people to think I'm building a monster truck in my garage, even though I kind of am, don't tell them. But yeah, I will be back with the Panhard bar whenever I get to it. Whew. New day, but it is the last day. We're gonna finish this up here real quick. So, Panhard bar, let's talk about it real quick. What are we gonna do? We're gonna move that DOM, set this here. So, let's talk Panhard bar, and let's talk the physical effects of locating it, having it vertical, having the geometry right, and whatnot. So this kit, this Panhard bar kit, comes with a rear axle mount. I mean, it can be front mounted too, and that can shoot up from anywhere on the axle, right? As long as you don't have any mounts in the way, and it can shoot the Panhard bar up all the way to the frame. The thing with this buggy is, one, the frame's really narrow. We can talk about the effects of having a narrow frame later, but the frame's also very high up. So if we use this mount on the axle, which we can't use anyways because it runs into the top link mount anyways, but if we use it right here, we'd be coming up and we'd be hitting the Panhard bar. We'll use this. We'll use this nice light piece of steel. We'd be hitting the Panhard bar at a really steep angle. And what that steep angle does is it causes more lateral movement the further it goes down. You want it to be perfectly parallel at ride height. That way you get the minimum lateral movement as the suspension articulates. So that's not gonna work. What is gonna work is shortening the Panhard bar moving this mount to the top of this link mount, strengthening the link mount, maybe adding some more gussets, but strengthening this link mount enough to where it's not gonna be affected by having a Panhard bar mount right above it, attached to it. That's gonna be effective, because then we can take the upper mount, extend the frame out about 4 inches to, you know, match the difference between the rear axle and where the frame ends, drop this right here, and then we can have a almost parallel Panhard bar going in between right here. It's only gonna be 30 inches long. It could be longer. Technically, it could be 36 to 40 inches long if I went to the outside of the axle, but that's not gonna work because I have to put a bend in the bar, and the bar would not be parallel, because you need these mounts. You don't need the bar to be parallel, you need the mounts. You need the lower and the upper mount to be at the same level as each other at right height, because that's what's gonna allow for the minimum amount of lateral movement. So even though I am gonna use a shorter Panhard bar, I'm gonna limit the lateral movement, so it should affect handling the least, technically. But, you know, the thing is, this is a 38 Chevy Coupe on a 79 CJ5 frame with a radius arm suspension. Like, there's just, my point is, this is gonna be a fun car. It's gonna be able to drive. It's gonna look sick. It's gonna have a lot of fun characteristics, but handling is probably not gonna be one of them. So it's just one of those things. The Panhard bar is just gonna have to get thrown in, and it's just gonna, I'm gonna sacrifice whatever drivability happens, because this is the best that I can do with the setup. So. Yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby. So that concludes the entire rear suspension. I guess I should walk you guys through what I did with the Panhard situation. I don't think I did. So I said I was gonna mount it up higher, right? Because up higher, I can get close enough geometry. I can still drop this down a little more. I'll be sacrificing that bump stop right there, but I can still drop it down a little more to be level. But I did end up shoving the axle a little bit away from the frame where it's pushing, so it should be equal. I did the calculations for how much lateral movement it's gonna have. It should be about 1.1 inches. So I shoved it roughly an inch, or roughly half an inch to the left away from the frame mount. So I think we'll be good. I mean, it's gonna ride like a 38 Coupe on a 79 CJ5 frame with a stretch back axle and leaf spring front. That's how it's gonna ride. So good enough for what it is, good enough for me. But I gusseted the top mount to the Panhard bar, or the lower mount to the Panhard bar, with the upper mount to the rear link over there. Front, I just used a piece of 2x4, cut out this little angle in it on this side, so pretty much made this a piece of angle with a 2x4 attached. And yeah, that's how that went on. It's sturdy enough. It's not gonna go anywhere. I'm not chasing mad flex on anything on this, you know. It's gonna be a fun ride. It's gonna be a fun little buzz arounder, you know. So that's how it turned out. I just went ahead and spray painted all of the links and the mounts just to save the welds. Got a little bit overspray in the shocks, but that'll go away from use if I ever get down that low in that shock. So really excited. I think next I'm going to change all the fluids while everything's open and out right there. I'm gonna clean up my garage because it's a mess everywhere. So I'm gonna clean that up, change all my fluids, mount the rear of the body actually on the frame, because once the rear of the body's on the frame, it's not going anywhere. Then I can start working on floors and the roll cage, which we'll do in one little bit. And that'll be with my brother, actually. It'll be hopefully April 11th weekend. So I don't know when that video will come out, but we're gonna get a lot done that week. As long as the steel supplier is open and I can get on the roads, we're gonna get roll cage and floors, tubes, front. We're gonna get a lot done that weekend. So, but yeah, guys, I'm exhausted as you couldn't tell. It took about 3 weeks waiting on parts and just waiting on everything else, but really stoked with how it came out. Really stoked with how it came out. I don't know how it's gonna drive. Hopefully it drives well though. So I will be back probably second, third week of April with a little bit of updates on this, hopefully with the roll cage, floorboards, and major progress on the 38 Chevy build, guys. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day.